and I like when the pressure's on me. I always rise to the occasion, and I believe in my skills, and I'm gonna do my thing.
Now, we've heard a lot of stuff recently about yourself. Obviously, 17 years of age, a very young man, even for a young man sport like this. Could you have ever imagined that you'd have made your debut on a card like this all of those years ago when you first started boxing?
Nah, it's a dream come true. I remember going to tournaments and stuff, and I remember just going from tournament to tournament. Just trying to win them and do my thing there. And now going to the big stage is my time.
Mentioned earlier about Floyd Mayweather, kind of a mentor for you. When was the first time that you met Floyd? And if you can,
Uh,
explain to me the influence that he's had on your career so far.
the first time I met Floyd, he was still fighting. It was around he was getting ready for Madonna, I think. And I went to the gym and watched him train. And at first they wouldn't let me train there at first. And then I started going there like when Floyd wasn't there, just training and training. And I started sparring their guys like the other little kids they had there, and I was like beating them up, making them cry. And so I started like earning my respect over there. And then eventually, I think either they told Floyd like about me, or Floyd seen one of my sparrings. And then next time I seen Floyd, like he was like showing me love. And then since then, it's been just like that.
What was it like the first time he was showing you love? So Floyd Mayweather, everybody knows who Floyd Mayweather
Yeah,
is, and he comes over to a young kid like yourself. That must have been such a great feeling.
yeah, it was crazy. Just amazing experience, and gave me a lot of confidence. Floyd, the best boxer ever, and for him to believe in me like that, it just really motivates me.
That's sort of Floyd inside the ring. You mentioned they're one of the greatest fighters of all time. What sort of advice and what sort of mentorship has he given you outside of the ring? Because we know boxing can be quite a dicey business,
Right.
but having somebody like that who's been there, seen it, and done it, and got the T-shirt must be so
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah, it is definitely. I listen to everything Floyd tell me, and I know he wishes nothing but the best for me, and he's putting me in the right direction. So everything he told me, and just guiding me to it, I'm listening to him, and I know I'm gonna be all right.
How would you describe yourself as a fighter for people who are not familiar with you yet?
Uh, I describe myself as an exciting fighter. I like to get in the mix. I'm sort of a hit not get hit fighter, a big counter puncher, and just a do it all type of fighter. It depends on the opponent that's in front of me. I could switch my style anytime.
What fighters did you like watching growing up apart from Floyd? So it
Uh,
feels weird to say growing up because you're still growing up. But
right. Other than Floyd, I'll say Sugar Ray Leonard is that he's a very exciting fighter, and it's always fun to watch his fights. Uh, Aaron Pryor, Pernell Whitaker, and I say Evander Holyfield.
excellent. That's a good little selection there as well. Quite diverse as well. You've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
the Vander Holyfield and Pernell Whitaker, so two very different styles. Kind of leans to what you're saying about being able to adjust and being able to
yeah,
adapt and do a bit of
exactly.
everything.
Yeah.
So I was minding my own business about a month ago, and then I turned on Twitter and I saw that Floyd Mayweather had suggested that his 17-year-old prospect, who hadn't had a professional fight yet, would beat the WBA featherweight champion Lee Wood, obviously from our neck of the woods, in
Mhm.
his first fight. And I remember seeing that and thinking, God, this kid must be good. What was it like when you saw that from Floyd?
Uh, yeah, me and Floyd had talked about it. We was looking at the champions, and then we seen Lee Woods footage, and then we was talking about like, yeah, I got him like right now. And then he did an interview. I wasn't expecting to do no interview about it. I thought me and him was just talking like just between us. And next thing you know, it's on Fight Hype. And so I'm like, okay, but yeah, we was dead serious about that, and we want that fight. I'm gonna handle my business and focus on my opponent for tomorrow. But after this, I definitely still want Lee Wood.
Is that how quickly you're looking to move? I mean, you're talking about kind of fighting a world champion before you've made your professional debut. You're so young. People always talk about like Wilfred Benitez winning a world title at 17. You really want to kind of try and get to the top as soon as possible, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I have the skills to do it, and I have the right team behind me to make that happen. And Wilfred Benitez was able to do it, so why Kamel Moton ain't able to do it?
How soon do you think you'll kind of progress through the rounds then? You're doing 6 tomorrow? Is that right?
It was supposed to be 6, but it got moved down to 4.
Are you disappointed with that? You don't get an extra 2 rounds, or you're expecting it to go early anyway? You weren't going to do the 4 rounds regardless?
I was disappointed that it got down to 4, but I don't expect it going past at least the third, anyways.
You mentioned there about Lee Wood and, of course, the featherweight division. What do you make of the rest of the champions? You've got like Robeisy Ramirez there, Ray Vargas there. Luis Alberto Lopez. What do you make of that kind of crop at 126?
Yeah, there's a few good champions. I feel like right now I'll be able to hold my own with all of them. I've worked with Robeisio Ramirez in a few of his camps, and I was in there. I was doing my thing for sure. And I feel like out of them champions, he's definitely the most skilled and best one. And I was he was barely handling me, so I feel like I'm ready to take over this division.
Now, I've said this a few times this week when I've spoken to American fighters and managers
Yeah,
and things like that. Kind of American boxing, I always feel anyway, kind of the sport needs the American scene to be doing well for the rest of the scene to do well, if that makes sense. And at the minute, you've got Jervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, all of these young kids, stars really coming through, Boots Ennis, yourself. How does it feel to be part of that crop? And which one of those guys do you rate the highest, apart from yourself, of course?
yeah, it feels great. You know, I'm the next one coming up. I'm the plan to be the biggest prospect. You know, of whatever. But other than myself, I say out of that crop, I say Tank is definitely the top dog, and then Boots is right there. Boots is real nice. He got a good skill set. He could do all. He switch. He real slick with it. So yeah, Boots is nice.
You mentioned that about Tank. I mean, I think there's like this misconception about Davis that he's just a puncher. Whereas a lot of people who have worked with him and seen him up close say, no, he's not just a puncher. He can box. He's got great ring IQ. What is it about him that you pick him out as the best of that bunch?
Definitely his boxing ability. Yeah, Tank is definitely more than just a big hitter. You can see if you watch his fights and you really know boxing, you can see how he sets his shots up. He's for me, he don't throw enough punches and he gives away rounds too much, but he always ends up catching his guys and gets him out of there. But yeah, he sets his punches up. He downloads the data from his opponents. He lets them swing at him and looks for the counters throughout the rounds, and then eventually he capitalizes on it. So yeah, and Tank is very fast too. I've been in there with him. He's probably the fastest fighter I've been in there with, and being in there, I could feel his boxing IQ. Like I seen it for myself. He definitely a smart fighter.
When you're in there with guys like Tank at this stage of your career, are you in the mode of wanting to prove something to them because you're young, you want to get your name out there, or is it kind of learning from those guys and taking what you can to progress as a fighter?
Uh, it's a little bit of both. I mean, at the end, it's just another person in there to me. I'm me, they them, and I'm gonna do me at all times. Whoever I spar a top level guy, I'm always do my thing, and I'm a like when I spar top level guys, I'm trying to hurt them. Like just like if I know they can handle it, then I'm gonna really try to put it on them, and I expect the same from them. So and then whatever they do good, I always try to take it from them too, like and add that to my repertoire.
For me, while lightweight is a very, very strong division, for me, regardless of belts, the fight I really most want to see in that division is Tank versus Shakur Stevenson. I think that's a really brilliant blend of styles. How do you see that fight going, and how highly do you rate Shakur?
Shakur is definitely one of the most skillful fighters in boxing right now. He, I feel like a lot of people sleep on Shakur. They think like he born or whatever, but real fighters know how sharp Shakur really is, and that'd be the biggest fight in boxing. That would be just an amazing fight. I don't know who will win that fight. I could tell you reasons why either one of them will win, and then I could tell you reason why either one of them will lose. So it's really a 50-50 fight, but in that fight, the fans are the winners.
Good answer. Before I let you go, Kamel, I really appreciate your time ahead of obviously your first weigh-in ahead of your professional debut. Let's talk about the main event on Saturday night: Canelo Alvarez versus Charlo. Jamel jumping up 2 weights to box Canelo at 168. I guess first initial opening question: just how do you see the fight playing out?
Uh, it's gonna be a great fight. I feel like Canelo's coming ready to win, and so is Charlo. I'm leaning towards Charlo. I feel like he's gonna get the unanimous decision. He's gonna outbox Canelo. I feel like Canelo, he looks for the power punch. A lot of like nowadays, he don't really run his combinations, and I feel like it's gonna be similar to like a Bivol type fight. He gonna lose the rounds.
Is there any reservations about Charlo moving up in weight? Obviously, a bit of inactivity as well. He's coming off the back of that hand injury. Are those kind of concerns for Jamel in this fight?
Yeah, definitely anything like that is a concern for any fight, but I feel like Charlo, he knows what he's dealing with and he's ready, and yeah, he gonna take it.
if Jamel does beat Canelo Alvarez, he jumps up 2 weight classes and beats the top guy at 168. Does he become pound for pound number 1 in your opinion?
Nah, he become number 2 for sure. I have to put Crawford number 1.
Who would you like to see Crawford face next? You want him to face the winner of this one?
Yeah, if Canelo wins, then I would like to see him go against Canelo. If Charlo, I don't really. That's not a really fight that I'm really looking forward to. But it'll be a big fight still.
Okay, well, Kamel, I really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, let's finish on yourself. I want you to look into that camera just there. I want you to get used to this because you're going to be a star. Look into the camera over there. I want you to tell people what to expect when Kamel Moton makes his professional debut tomorrow night.
When I make my professional debut, expect fireworks. You know, it's going to be a show. And expect a boxing clinic. And expect knockouts.
You hear that, Lee Woods? Thanks very much, Kamel. Thanks for your time. All the best tomorrow. And we'll catch up with you sometime soon. Thank you. So we're still live here. So thanks very much. Thanks, Joe. So there we have it. There was Kamel Moton. A lot of talk around this young man ahead of his professional debut tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to it. You know, I want this to be one of those moments where I look back in years to come and say, Kamel Moton, I was at his professional debut. I was there before he made his first professional bow. So just going to have a look through our live stream at the minute here on One Boxing. Welcome to everybody who's joining us. Remember to please don't forget to hit the like button. It does help push the video out. Can I just use this one now? There we go. Sorry. I wanted to give Kamel Moton the good microphone, you see. Young champion coming through. So we want to make sure that he was well looked after here on One Boxing. So just logging in, seeing all of your questions coming in. Thanks very much. Don't forget to hit the like button and get your questions in. I'll do my best. How important is a fast start for Jermell Charlo tomorrow? I think fast start, yes, but also I think it's important that Charlo can make some sort of imprint on Canelo tomorrow. I think I don't think Jermell, as good as his movement can be, he's very purposeful, his movement. He's not a runner. He's not somebody who kind of skates around the ring, but his movement is very purposeful. He needs to not give up ground too easily. Don't let Canelo just walk him down and walk through him, which is why I think I don't think Charlo needs to win the early rounds necessarily, but he can't afford to be kind of backed up and ground down by Canelo. So I don't think he can afford to lose those early rounds. But if he does lose those early rounds and he's able to make an impression on Canelo, then I think that's worthy of that's a good start for him. Sorry, I do apologize for my skittish behavior. We're on Friday of fight week. Anybody who knows anything about my coverage over the years on a Friday of fight week knows it can be a little bit hit or miss. Hit and miss. There we go. See, we're flying here on One Boxing. I'm just going to put a couple of tweets out ahead of our live. Get those questions coming in. Who does Morton think wins next week for the featherweight crown in the UK? Alex, I'm really sorry. I unfortunately didn't see the comments before he left us, Kamel Moton. But there's one thing for sure. That kid does not lack in confidence. He is ready to rumble. He wants to fight Lee Wood as soon as possible, apparently, which is good to hear. You don't get me wrong. You don't want to hear it all the time, but every once in a while when you get a young prospect who comes out and instead of says, we're going to take it fight by fight and I'll leave that to my team, says, no, I want to fight the world champion in my first fight or the second fight. It's nice. It's refreshing. It's a good change. Just waiting for things to fill up a little bit here. Remember to hit the like button. Will help us get through today's stream on One Boxing. KBR11 says, how much coffee have you drank this time? Not enough is the answer, mate. Another very late night last night. I think I will. I think, it's coming to the end now. Yeah, please. Yeah. Weigh-in open for public today. Yes, it is open to the public. It's outside the T-Mobile Arena, and it is from 2:30 p.m. Not sure when the main event will be expected on stage. Maybe sometime about 4 or 5. But yes, it is very much open to the public outside in Las Vegas by the T-Mobile Arena. So I'm hoping it's not too hot because I don't really deal too well in the heat. I don't really want to turn into a pork scratching. So just a second. Waiting for everybody to come up. Don't forget to get your questions in, guys and girls. How's the atmosphere out there in Vegas versus Crawford? Spence asks Alex Olds. Big up Alex Olds. Yeah, it's quieter, obviously. Spence Crawford was a massive event. It was something that we'd all waited for years. It's not really the case with this necessarily, even though they have been talking about fighting each other for a long time. Yeah, Spence Crawford was the bigger fight week, but I don't think anybody expected any different. But yeah, I don't know. I think Canelo, having boxed on DAZN, which obviously doesn't have the same reach in the United States as your Showtimes, as your ESPNs, whether or not he's, maybe not as part of the mainstream, if you could call it as such, as he maybe once was a few years ago. Not too sure. We've also not seen Jermell Charlo really engage and show us that kind of Jermell Charlo attitude in the build up to this, which may or may not have kind of, I don't want to say harmed the promotion. That's not the right thing at all. But we haven't had the headlines that maybe would have expected from Jermell Charlo in the build up to this. But from his perspective, he's focusing on the fight. He's got the fight that he wants, and he's going to let his fist do the talking tomorrow night in Las Vegas. Thanks very much, Ben. Big up Ben, cameraman, tech man, coffee man, bad man. Let's go, champ. Yeah, we can bring Leonard in. Definitely, Leonard Ellerbe. I'm sure he'll come in. Is he over there with Kamel? Okay. Just grab Leonard. Yeah, waiting here for Leonard. Ooh, got a fantasy fight question from Dr. Draker. Should Charlo lose tomorrow? Does the fight with Crawford lose its shine? I think depends on how he loses it, maybe. If he goes in there and it's a one-sided drubbing and he gets stopped, then yeah, probably. Once you see a fighter kind of, mortalized like that, or made to look so mortal, I don't even know if that's a word, made to look so kind of, mortal like Errol Spence was. Sorry. I must learn to turn off my notifications when I'm live here in Las Vegas. But anyway, yes, I think it depends on the manner of his loss. If he puts up a good fight, maybe loses a close decision, then that's one way. That's one thing. But if he gets stopped in a one-sided drubbing, yeah, then that does take a bit of the shine off it. It naturally would. And also, I'm not sure whether Jermell comes back to 54. I know he said that he's got unfinished business there. We saw him weigh in today, 167.4 at the official weigh-in this morning, ahead of this afternoon's ceremonial weigh-in. So all of the talk this week about him maybe coming in at 163, 164, not actually the case. So I don't know. I can't really see Charlo going back to 54 afterwards, I have to say. I think he probably settles in around middleweight, maybe fights for, who knows, if Jamal moves up and boxes David Benavidez at 168, you could see Jamel fight for the vacant WBC. Jermell Charlo versus Carlos Adames. I don't know. I think we're going to be joined by a certain Leonard Ellerbe here. We'll swap it out. We'll do what we usually do. So I'll swap it out and give Leonard the good microphone because he deserves it. There you go, Leonard.
What's happening?
How are you? Nice to see you.
Good.
You're looking quite relaxed this week.
Man, it's like
nice and comfortable.
And this is what it's all about, just staying comfortable.
You're preaching to the converted here, Leonard. But yes, we are only a matter of hours away now from tomorrow's main event, Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo. So we'll start there, Leonard. I'm intrigued by the fight. A very good fight tomorrow night in Las Vegas.
Yes, it's huge. Another mega event put on by PBC / Showtime. With Canelo Alvarez coming over to the PBC, he'll see that, which he has obviously fought the plant fight over here. This is a whole different kind of platform, and he has much, much more exposure. And we're just really, really excited that there's you got this mega event come tomorrow night.
You mentioned there about kind of Canelo coming back onto the Showtime platform. I think 9 of his last 10 fights have been on DAZN.
Yeah.
I spoke to Stephen Espinosa yesterday, or we spoke to Stephen Espinosa yesterday, and we kind of, I guess, asked him about the challenges and the way that changes a fighter's profile, not having the more mainstream appeal of a Showtime or an ESPN or something like that, or a Fox. How does that impact on a fighter's marketability?
You talking about Canelo or other fighters?
Canelo specifically in this instance, because obviously he's boxed 9.
Well, again, I'm gonna just be honest. It's like, it's the one thing that I really, really like that they did they were able to make the best deal as possible. And they did that. We're working with the zone. They made the best deal that was possible for them, financially. As it relates to the exposure, it it's different because the platform, it's a good platform for whatever they're doing, but as far as the fighters are concerned, is that it hasn't taken off, I'm sure, as they would have liked or whatever. But again, that's really kind of none of my business. It's all about the fighters, and he made a lot of money, and I commend both sides for that. There's nothing wrong with that.
You mentioned there the fighters. Let's go back to the fight itself. Jamel Charlo, there was a period of time where I think everybody was expecting more to be the one to box Canelo Alvarez. I think when the fight was announced, obviously everybody was very surprised to see Jamel stepping up 2 weight classes to box at 168 pounds. But an intriguing fight, and one that Jamel seems really ready for this week.
Yeah, I think that this is destiny for him, to be in a mega fight like this with a great champion and Canelo Alvarez. People make a big deal about him moving up 2 weight classes, but I think that he'll be a lot comfortable at this weight because it's more closer to his natural walk around weight. And sometimes the fans don't really understand that part of it, but I think he'll be very strong for this fight, which will help him. But he's dealing with a guy, obviously, who's a monster, and Canelo Alvarez, and Jamel he's a lion himself, as he says. So again, when these two come together tomorrow, it's going to be a terrific fight. Both guys feel as though that they got something to prove, and we'll be looking to prove that to the fans all over the world. So again, it's a terrific event. We have a great undercard. One of the best undercards I've seen in 25 years. Top undercard with some really, really solid, good action-packed fights, and that's how you roll out a pay-per-view card.
Certainly is a very strong card. We'll come on to talk about the undercard and specifically Kamel Moton, of course, who I'm very, very excited to see make his professional debut. But back to the main event, seems to be kind of this kind of feeling or discussion around Canelo Alvarez maybe not being the fighter that he once was. He's 33, but obviously had a lot of fights, turned over young as a professional in Mexico. Do you see that? Do you think there has been a decline in Canelo? Do you think he's maybe not quite the fighter that he once was?
No, I mean, personally, I believe him. He said that he suffered some injuries in, a few of these previous fights. I believe him because I know firsthand that how when you're a fighter of that level and you're going to have your bumps and bruises in camp and you don't want to pull out the fight to let the fans down, because this has definitely happened with Floyd. So I can understand him fighting through injuries, but he says that he's 100% ready for tomorrow night. And so he says that he's looking to put on a great performance for his fans and the fans all over the world who'll be tuned in. And I'm just excited to see this fight. I really am.
It seemed about, I think, a couple of months ago when we were over here for Spence Crawford, in the space of about a week, we had 3 different pound-for-pound number ones. We had like Crawford, Inoue, Usyk, all in the mix. If Jamel Charlo beats Canelo Alvarez, jumping up 2 weight classes, does he put himself in that shake, in that conversation for the pound-for-pound best?
Of course he does. That was a no-brainer. Again, but that's a tough task. That is a tough task. I think it's a tough task for both guys. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for either guy, because both guys are very prideful, and again, it's going to come down to who can execute their game plan the best, and it's going to be great for the fans.
Just on Canelo, we're 10 years removed from Canelo Canelo, beg your pardon, all of those years ago. Could you have ever imagined that when Floyd kind of sailed off into the sunset, that Canelo would be fast behind him and would kind of achieve the things that Canelo has achieved in those 10 years? Did you realize it on that night? Because it was such a one-sided fight that I don't think anybody really could have looked at that and expected Canelo to become the star he has become on the back of it.
Well, again, he has a tremendous fan base. He's a great fighter with phenomenal skills. So he's put in that work, and he learned so much from the Mayweather fight. So, yes, he lost the fight, and Floyd dominated him in that fight, but it was a win for him. Not a win on the record books, but it was a win from the learning experience that he was able to, and that's priceless. What he took away from that Mayweather fight, he knew he had to go back to the drawing board, step his work ethic up, and because he realized that, wow, Floyd is like really, really a great fighter, and he lost to the better man, but he saw where he needed to get to, and once he laid out a game plan, him, Eddie, laid out the game plan, he was ready to take on that challenge and go out there and prove to the fans that he could be the top fighter in the entire sport. And once Floyd retired, then he passed that torch on to him. But Canelo went out and grabbed it, and he's a terrific fighter. He's a great countryman. He's just a good person.
So let's talk about the undercard tomorrow night, and namely the debut of Kamel Moton, super featherweight prospect. Just spoke to him about 5 minutes ago, and I was very impressed by his kind of maturity, very level head on his shoulders, not what you would kind of come to expect from a 17-year-old making his professional debut on such a massive card. With that being said, how excited should we be about this young man?
Really excited. What really helps is that he has a great relationship with Floyd. So Floyd has a way of breaking things down and making you comfortable. So he's prepared. He's worked really hard in the gym, and we're just excited to see him make his pro debut tomorrow. I'm just really happy for him. Really happy for him. Him and Floyd have built a incredible relationship over the years. Floyd's been in his life for 12, 13 years, maybe, like that. And so anytime you could say that a guy like Floyd Mayweather is your mentor and he's hands-on with you, that's like, man, it gets no bigger than that. It really does.
We've seen, in recent years, Jervonta Davis, or I remember when Jervonta was making his kind of early bouts and everyone was like, okay, he's going to be the next one up. Is Kamel very much going to be in that kind of that mold of Tank where he's kind of the heir apparent to that throne coming through?
Well, what I don't want to compare the two fighters, but Kamel has the best team in boxing, so he's as far as he can focus on the things he needs to inside that ring. You know what I mean? We're going to put him in the best situation to be successful in any and everything that what he does. But, for a young 17-year-old, he's very mature. And I think a lot of that comes from being around, people with a lot of experience in the sport, and he's learned a lot from his circle of people who he has the access to get the information from.
I mentioned to you before we went live, and I spoke to Kamel about it while he was on here, that he called out Lee Wood ahead of his professional debut. I saw Floyd making some headlines as well. Then I saw Floyd and Lee Wood going back and forth, which is not something I expected.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Did Floyd go back and forth with him?
I don't think Floyd went back. I think Floyd said it.
Floyd's not even on social media.
Yeah. But an interview that he did, I think, with Fight Hype caused some stirs and caused a few headlines ahead of his professional debut. When I spoke to Kamel, he said, no, look, that's a fight I think I'm ready for. I think we win that fight. He said, okay, Wilfred Benitez was a world champion at 17. Why can't I be? Is that the level we're talking about here? Is he that good?
He's that good. He's that good. Floyd's giving him the stamp of approval. He's that good. You've heard it out of Floyd Mayweather's mouth yourself that he didn't have a problem at all with putting him in with Lee Wood in his very first fight.
So how quick are you going to move him? Obviously, he makes his professional debut tomorrow.
He's on the fast track. He's on the fast track, and just God willing that he can come through uninjured in this fight and he'll be right back in November.
Okay, Leonard, just going to take a few questions coming in from our audience here watching. One question, of course, one of the big stories this week has been around Showtime boxing. Can we have Leonard's view on Showtime's potential exit from boxing and the future of boxing in general on television?
Well, I don't want to comment on rumors because that's what it is, rumors. And if the fans have any questions about the rumors, Stephen Espinosa would be more than happy to answer the questions.
I guess from my perspective, I appreciate you're not a Showtime employee, and I'm certainly not trying to dig for information that's not really yours to give out.
Yeah, I understand.
But with regards to kind of, I guess, boxing as a wider sport on television, we've seen in recent years HBO, of course, leaving boxing. For me at least, as a boxing fan, before anything, the health of the sport is very, very important. Do you think we're in kind of a period where maybe the broadcasting landscape will slightly change in the future? Obviously, we've seen recently in recent years with the advent of streaming and other platforms. Do you think we're in kind of a changing time for networks?
Boxing is very healthy right now, and I continue to be very positive about that. We're always finding ways to make these big events, and we'll continue to do that. And I think that everything is going to work out. Everything is going to work out.
For a lot of people, I mean, myself included, kind of hearing the rumors and seeing the stories coming out on the back of such a strong year on the platform was very surprising. But away from kind of Showtime and just speaking about those big events, we've obviously had Spence Crawford, Tank Garcia, we've got Canelo, Charlo. What a year for boxing, Leonard.
Yeah, it's an amazing year. And when you look at all of that, who did you just say those people? The matchups were they?
They were Jervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford, and Canelo Alvarez versus Jamel Charlo.
Okay, so what platform are those events on?
Those platforms are on Showtime Boxing and PBC.
Okay, there you go.
Looking forward to a strong 2024. We're going to go into a couple of other questions that we've got here. I wasn't going to bring this up, but somebody else has mentioned it, so we'll go for it. True Mexico has says, question, what did Leonard think of Eddie Hearn's Florida Ballroom Hall event last week? Is it a sign of Matchroom USA's demise?
I didn't watch it. I don't have DAZN and never have had DAZN. I've watched certain fights going over friend's house, but I don't have that app. I'm just being honest, I don't. And it has nothing to do with him. It's just I don't have it, and I don't care to. The level of fights that I'm used to is different. I'm just being honest. It's that they have 1,000 shows, which is great, and I'm not remotely at all criticizing him, but I'm talking about the difference between Showtime and DAZN. That was the question. It's a big difference. But Richardson Hitchens fought, and he was a former fighter of mine. I sent him I text him and I sent him some over Twitter or X, whatever they call it, wishing him good luck. But I did not watch the fight.
Okay. Another question we've got here. Leonard, I think I might know the answers to this after some of the conversations we've already had. Who do you see as the best prospect in boxing currently?
We have a couple. Kamel Moton is just one of a few guys that we got. A few guys that we have we have Robert Merriweather. We have Jaleel Hackett. We have I have so many fighters, man, that are young guys who are super talented. I don't want to leave anybody out. But we're stacked. We're stacked.
Okay, and before I let you go, Leonard, it wouldn't be right not to talk about a certain Jervonta Tank Davis before I let you go. Of course, mentioned earlier on that massive event with Ryan Garcia back in April. The world is clamoring and waiting for news about Jervonta Davis's return. Obviously, I'm not going to be as foolish to ask you about any details, Leonard. I'm a bit too long in the tooth for that. But when can we realistically expect to see him back? I mean, let's talk about the end of this year. Let's talk about him at the top of the year, which he tweeted or X'd or whatever it is a couple of days ago. The world wants to see Tank back.
Yeah, and he tweeted out there and said what it was. He's going to come back the top of the year. That's what it is.
135?
135?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're looking to sort of see him bed in there because we've seen in the past he's boxed at 30. He had the brief stint at 140 when he boxed Barrios there. But it seems to me like he's now reached that sort of stage of his career where he's 27 now, settled into a man. And I personally, as a boxing fan, would love to see him settle in a weight and dominate the weight. That's kind of what I would like to see.
Yeah, and I think that you'll see these guys, these matchups, some of the fans are talking about, they're going to definitely happen. It's just the timing of it. It's the timing of when.
One of the fights that people were discussing was Devin Haney versus Jervonta Davis. We're now seeing him announced to be boxing Regis Pro Game.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
It's a good fight. Good fight.
Do you like Devin in that fight?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And then, okay, here's a really interesting question. What's been your best night in Las Vegas? We're gonna stick with
many.
We're gonna stick with the boxing though, Leonard. Yeah, we don't want to hear about what goes on the girl collection.
You're right. That's a tough question because it's been so many.
Yeah.
It's been so many. I mean, making that trek from down the way, as we say, driving here, on a number of great nights, on Showtime pay-per-view, all those have been glorious, glorious nights. I'm just blessed to be able to actually be a part of something that's historical. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful feeling to be in that position.
Do you still like coming to Vegas after all of these years?
I live in Vegas.
You live in Vegas? Where do you live in Vegas? Whereabouts in Vegas? I don't want to know the exact address, but you are like, are you out of the madness a bit?
Yeah, I have a few spots.
Oh, okay.
I have a few spots.
Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you about. So, I've watched it countless times. You must remember the Barstool Sports press conference.
Oh yeah, that was
Caleb Presley when he comes up to you and he asks you about.
I know, it was like I was with Tank and it was like something about.
He was asking you about Bitcoin.
Yeah, and he said something about your house, and I was like, he was kind of annoying, but it was that's the part of what they do, and it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, that was a very interesting one. That's very good content. Leonard, thank you so much.
Thank you for
joining us. We look forward to seeing the professional debut of Kamel Moton, and I'll be sure to let Lee Wood know that he's coming for him. Thanks very much for stopping by, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Okay, thank you.
There we have it. That was the main man, Leonard Ellerbe, looking very, very comfortable today. Going to swap that to the good microphone now. God, I've got warm hands, Mr. Ellerbe. Remember to keep hitting that like button. I was very aware that I was kind of asking Leonard Ellerbe to tell me his address. You don't want to see me popping up around the house. Go to Leonard Ellerbe's for breakfast. Just going to keep things moving here. Huh? Yeah, Kamel Moton said he's picking Lee Wood to beat Josh Warrington by knockout. So a bold pick from Kamel Moton, a bold young man, though, it has to be said. Very, very impressive young man. Okay, so we are still going here on one-on-one boxing as we build up to the Canelo Alvarez live stream. Just going to put this down while I put out a little tweet and promote today's live stream. Make sure you get your questions in just while I put this down. Okay, here we go. What time does the weigh-in start? Asked Damon Matthews. So the weigh-in starts at 2:30 local time, so that's 10:30 p.m. UK time. We'll be shutting off from the live stream in about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour if I can squeeze it past Ben. And then we're going to head over to the T-Mobile for today's weigh-in. Lots of interesting fights on the undercard this weekend. Leonard Ellerbe, of course, mentioning there about the professional debut of Kamel Moton, but there's a couple of really, really good fights. Your Dennis Ugas versus Mario Barrios, a really good fight at welterweight. We've seen Barrios against Keith Thurman and Jervonta Davis come up short in his biggest fights so far. Is it going to be third time lucky for him this weekend? I think Ugas, It's difficult to know what he's got left at this stage. Obviously, haven't seen him box since losing to Errol Spence last year. So that's a great fight. I'm also looking forward to Jesus Ramos versus Erickson Lubin at 154 pounds. Really, really good fight as well. Yeah, good stuff from Leonard with thanks very much, True Mexico, by the way, for forcing me to ask him a question about Eddie Hearn. I didn't want him to chin me. Don't forget to get your questions in. Alex asked me a question. Okay, with Dr. Draycott. So I didn't actually go back to this one. Who would you pick at 168 pounds prime for prime, Canelo or Andre Ward? It's a good question. I would say probably Andre Ward. You got to go for Andre Ward. We've seen Canelo struggle with some tricky fighters in the past. I think it's a very interesting fight though, because I don't think Ward really moves as much as some of the fighters who have given Canelo problems in the past. I think those guys who are fleet of foot, somebody like Joe Calzaghe, good fast hands, fast feet, southpaw style. I think is a hard fight for Canelo. Whereas Ward does catch and counter and stay in the pocket a little bit more than somebody like Calzaghe. But a really, really good fight that is, Canelo versus Andre Ward. But I go for Andre Ward as well, the naturally bigger guy. Canelo, of course, started at welterweight, but he was 15 years old or whatever he was, or 140, I think he was at one point. But isn't necessarily he's certainly not a natural super middleweight. True Mexico, haha, I was trying to get Leonard to go off on one. I know what you were bloody well doing, True Mexico. But yeah, it was it's always good to catch up with Ellerbe. I think initially he's always a bit wary when he hears my accent. Hears my accent and hears that I'm a Brit and thinks that I'm an Eddie Hearn plant or an informant. I'm there to catch him out. But yeah, I knew exactly what you were doing, True Mexico. Ugas got to get Barrios. Barrios, my guy, but Ugas a dog. Ugas is a good fighter, but who knows what he's got left at this stage of his career. He's been around for a long, long time, a lot of amateur fights. And of course, had that really hard fight with Errol Spence. We've not seen him since. The Errol Spence loss as well isn't one that's really aged particularly great, considering how Errol Spence was taken apart by Terence Crawford. Damon Matthews says Andre Ward. Yeah, I agree. I think Andre Ward just a bit too cute and a bit too clever and a bit too naturally big for Canelo Alvarez as well. Alex Holes, what fights are you looking forward to this weekend from the UK? I feel like that clip of, remember when Max Kellerman asked Miguel Cotto whether or not he'd fight Gennady Golovkin? Siobhan Clark versus Vasyl Ducar is the fight I'm looking forward to this weekend from the UK cards. Yeah, so I think that's a really good fight. Chev Clark is a good fighter, and Vasyl Ducar is a very, very capable kind of fringe European level maybe type of guy. Obviously boxed the likes of Chris Billam-Smith, almost stopped Jordan Thompson, who 2 fights later is fighting for a world title. So yeah, I would say Chev Clark versus Vasyl Ducar is the fight that I'm most looking forward to. Callum Simpson's in a decent fight against a late replacement Mexican, Jose de Jesus Macias, I think his name is, in the Bet365 wild card event. So yeah, make sure that's actually a decent little fight. Macias is a good fighter. He can punch a little bit. Yeah, it's real difficult when you're at Canelo, Charlo, and somebody asks you what one you're most looking forward to from the UK. If I was looking forward to it from the UK, I wouldn't be here. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I think Chev Clark versus Vasyl Ducar. I think Stephen McKenna will be far too much for Darren Tetley at 54. Vidal Riley, I think, beats Nathan Cuelas fairly comfortably. Jai Opetaia, I think, beats Jordan Thompson fairly comfortably. So yeah, Chev Clark versus Vasyl Ducar. Danny Gilfillan. Sorry, mate. I'm always terrible with like how to pronounce your surname. Sorry. What did you make of Ahmed Ellerbe saying Canelo gassed out and quit against him in sparring? Canelo stamina's issues in general. I mean, Danny, you know as well as I do that sparring is sparring. And look, you can't really take anything from that. Canelo's a I say that he's a seasoned, experienced pro. There's seasoned and experienced, and then there's having 65 fights or whatever. He's having 25 world title fights. Like, he knows what he's doing to get himself in shape. I don't pay much attention to people who say stuff like that, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't think we can take anything of it. But yeah, I mean, the Canelo stamina issues in general, he's not getting any younger. And as he's kind of got older and developed in his career, he's not that combination puncher that we used to see at 54 pounds. He's more of a stalking pressure fighter, but throws big singles, similar to sort of Jervonta Davis, really. But I would say, yeah, I would say that I don't take too much from that. But look, I don't think it's a controversial pick to say that he's slowing down, for sure. Yeah. Cheddar Sam in the house, please announce. Big up Cheddar Sam. Yoza, your early predictions on the Magnificent Seven card just announced by Queensbury. My early prediction is that I will be there. That is a really good card. Fight I really like on that is Anto Kakachi versus Ryan Garner. That's a really good fight. I really rate Ryan Garner. I think he's really good, but that's a big step up when you consider his lack of activity over recent years. I know recently he's got a bit more active, but Anto Kakachi can really fight and he can punch. So I'm quite surprised at that. I thought maybe Garner would want one or maybe even two more before that. Kakachi is like a world-ranked fighter. Like, he could box for a world title and I don't think be necessarily outclassed. I think, so that's a good fight. Some of the other fights on it what's on that Magnificent Seven card?
Esselman versus Harry Scarf.
Esselman versus Harry Scarf. Yeah, good fight. That's sort of a rivalry as well. And you got Nottingham versus Derby. I think in that it's Harry Scarf from Derby. Okay, yeah. That's a decent enough fight. I think Esselman wins that. Is the Denzel Bentley Nathan Heaney fight on that? Yeah, I think that's a really hard fight for Nathan Heaney. I think Denzel Bentley is a very, very good fighter, and Nathan Heaney. Ball versus Dogbo, yes, really good fight. And Nathan Heaney is probably sort of English level. He could box for a British title maybe, but that's a hard fight for him. I expect Denzel Bentley to look good in that fight. Nick Ball versus Isaac Dogbe is a really good fight. Really good fight. Nick Ball's great to watch, but I think one of the reasons why he's great to watch is because he is fairly flawed. That's brilliant. That's what you want for a fighter, really. Someone who one of the reasons why Khan was so great to watch. So yeah, I really like that fight. I think Nick Ball will win that, but Dogbe's a good fighter, man. At featherweight, he's not as effective as he was at super bantamweight pre-Navarrete. But he's a good fighter and he's a good world level operator. Beat Joet Gonzalez, who's just boxed for a world title. That's a good fight. That wouldn't surprise me massively if Dogbe was able to win that. And I do like Nick Ball a lot. He's one of my favorite British fighters to watch. The Scouse Jervonta Davis. Big him up. Okay, having a few other ones. What else was on that? I think I did like a magnificent 4 out of 7 or something, 5 out of 7. Alex Owens, thoughts on Fury Usyk announcement today. Someday for Frank. Great card announced too. Do you give Heaney a chance against Bentley? Thoughts on the Fury Usyk announcement today. I felt like this was in the pipeline, and it's very easy to say that after the event, but I did tell some people that I felt the fight was done. One of the reasons I felt the fight was done was because after Usyk beat Daniel Dubois, there was no jumping up and down, shouting and screaming from Eddie Hearn regarding Filip Hrgovic and the IBF. Now, the IBF can order a mandatory, and the IBF mandatory is next. If an undisputed fight or a unification fight hasn't been done or hasn't been in discussion. So the fact that there was no talk about the IBF mandatory after Usyk versus Dubois kind of made me think something was up. And then we saw as well Turki Al-Sheikh, who is His Excellency, big him up, posing with Usyk, posing with Fury. Kind of 2 add 2 doesn't always equal 4 when it comes to boxing, but yeah, I thought that there was a chance that could happen, and it has so proved to be. Although hold fire on it, we still don't have a date, we still don't have a location, no site, no fight, as they say. But the new entity, as it's been referred to by people in Saudi Arabia, they have the power and the access to the money to make things happen quickly. I think that was one of the things that sort of slowed the heavyweight division down. In the past, when we've discussed Saudi fights over the last year, 18 months or so, there's a process to get the money and then this and then that. My understanding is that the new outfit are able to get stuff done and move pretty quickly, which is what we all want. We don't want these fights to be stagnating. We don't want to lose out on the big fights, and I don't think there's anything bigger than the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Let us know in the comments who you guys think is going to win. Is it going to be Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk? I think that fight is very, 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 very close. I think that is a 50-50 fight, or as close to it as you can reasonably expect. Alex Olds asks, Joshua Wilder like to be on the same card? No, not likely at all. But I mean, I don't have that kind of verified, but sort of conventional wisdom and everything that we know about boxing and making big fights would lead me to think that would not happen on the same card. Yeah, everybody loves a dream, though, Alex, and we know that you love a dream. But I have a dream as well. Shout out Martin Luther King. Right, let's get some of the questions going, guys and girls. We've probably got about... Ben, what time do you want to leave? What time are we leaving? We've got about 10 minutes before we're wrapping things up. We will be going live again after the weigh-in. Weigh-in due to start about 10:30 p.m. local time. 10:30 p.m. local time, 10:30 p.m. in the UK, 2:30 p.m. local time here in Las Vegas. As anybody knows, the fact that I'm starting to look over each shoulder knows that the lunch has been served, food has come out. Yeah. Okay, guys, so don't forget to please hit the like button and get your questions in. Counting down here to the Canelo Charlo weigh-in in Las Vegas. Just going through a few bits, just trying to get some questions from Twitter, actually. All I can see at the minute in my notifications is a bunch of abuse. No, I'm joking. Okay. How's the food been? Asked Alex Old. Not great, mate. I have to say, American food is absolutely terrible. Like, and anybody who tells you otherwise is either a liar or American. So yeah, it's... I mean, as we all know, I'm not exactly the fussiest eater in the world. But yeah, it's difficult to fuel yourself when you're in Vegas because you're just constantly living off a steady diet of caffeine, air conditioning, and grease. So yeah, but there we go. Body of a champion. So let's not forget to get these questions in. We are live on One-on-One Boxing, and hit that subscribe button as well. We've gone past 1,000 subscribers in the last few days, up to almost 1,500 now on One-on-One Boxing. So that makes me very, very proud. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll be going live from pretty much all of the major weigh-ins from across the boxing landscape, whether it's here in Las Vegas, whether it's on the East Coast in New York, or whether it is next Friday in Nottingham ahead of Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington. We will be there. Sorry, it's Ben. Sheffield, Nottingham, Leeds, wherever it is. Wherever I tell you, we'll go live in all of them. But yeah, Sheffield, not Nottingham. Again, forgive me. It is Friday of fight week. And I'm feeling legs are shaky, Adam. But yeah, we are live here every Friday from the big events on One-on-One Boxing. Don't forget to get your questions in. We are going to be counting down shortly. We've probably got about 10 minutes or so before we head over to the media center, media tent. Trying to work out whether or not there's a way that we can make this work without heading over there. Would it not? You'd need to take the FX6 and... Yeah, we'll have to head off, won't we? We've got a few interviews to get today as well with some very special Mexican legends. So look forward to bringing that to you all. Let's see what's going on in here. Get some Mexican in here. Yeah, we haven't had any Mexican food, have we? No, we have not. We haven't. Got to get it done. Okay, guys and girls, we only have about 10 minutes left. So if you got any questions about this week, about the Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk news that broke earlier today, don't forget to get your questions in before we wrap things up. We will be looking to come back again after the weigh-in But we do only have about 10 minutes or so left on this live stream before we have to head over and bring you all of the latest from the Canelo Charlo weigh-in. Really looking forward to Kamel Moton now. Anybody who comes out and says something like that, any chance of an upset this weekend? If I was going to pick an upset, if I have to, I would go with Resendiz versus Elijah Garcia. And that's not a slight against Elijah Garcia. He's a very good fighter and a very good prospect. But Resendiz has got that unknown about him still. Like, beat Jarrett Hurd, stopped Jarrett Hurd, who, isn't the same fighter that he once was, I think it's fair to say. But Elijah Garcia has only done 10 rounds once, and he's going in there against an experienced, tough, rugged guy in Resendiz who can really punch. So I would say that. Well, actually, no, Mario Barrios. I'm actually openly picking Mario Barrios against Yordenis Ugas. So that's an underdog. You can get, I think, 7-2 on the decision at Bet365. Shout out Bet365, gamble responsibly all the time. But yeah, I would probably say that. I'll probably say Mario Barrios, but also Resendiz for kind of a, that's more of a punt though. That's kind of, yeah, that's less informed than the Barrios pick. Favorite venue for a big fight, I would say, is my living room, because I get to sit there quietly, watch the fight, eat a big pizza, and then go to bed. But if I absolutely have to leave the house, Vegas, man, yeah, it's the best place to watch a big fight. There's no two ways about it. Like MGM Grand or T-Mobile Arena. You get people say, "Oh, York Hall." Like, I love York Hall, mate, but if you're giving me the option between York Hall and the T-Mobile, I do love a bagel, but you can get bagels in Las Vegas as well. So I would say I prefer the MGM to the T-Mobile, purely a logistical thing, because the MGM is right across the road from where we usually stay. But yeah, for me, Vegas, anywhere in Vegas, baby, let's go, champ. Yeah, I mean, the fights, thoughts on Wardley versus Adelaide not being for a British title. The fight's not in Britain. The British Boxing Board of Control are not going to approve a fight to be for a British title, then it's not in Britain. Whether or not that's right, whether or not that's wrong, it's just the board. The board are going to board. So yeah, I don't really know what happens if one of them wins, or because it's been mandated for the British title by David Adelaide. So if he wins or if he loses, is he still mandatory? I don't know. But it's a good fight. I do favour Wardley fairly heavily in it. I think he's the more proven entity, even though he's not exactly a proven entity yet as well. So yeah, it's an interesting fight, but yeah, British title not being on the line, it's not a huge surprise, I have to say. Yoza says, how's the general buzz stateside for this fight? Has interest in Canelo waned since his Bivol defeat? It was something that we spoke to Stephen Espinosa about yesterday, which you can read on the Boxing News website, boxingnewsonline.net, by Declan Taylor. He spoke to Stephen Espinosa and he said, look, Canelo's boxed 9 of his last 10 fights on DAZN, which isn't a leading platform in the United States. That is where Canelo's core market is, certainly Mexico and the United States. Not having that visibility on there, he's only had, this is his second all-access fight in his last 10 or 11 fights, as in, having the all-access Showtime cameras and everything kind of pushing him out on various platforms, being a bit more visible. So I don't necessarily think it's just the Bivol fight. I think it's kind of 9 of his last 10 fights or whatever it's been haven't been on a HBO, on a Showtime, on a Fox, on an ESPN, and that does play a factor. Visibility is very, very important. So yeah, general buzz-wise, it's not the same buzz that we had for Spence versus Crawford. I wasn't here for Jervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia, but I think it's fair to say that had a lot more buzz around it as well. But look, it's still a big fight. It is still Canelo versus Kamel Charlo. There are still plenty of Canelo fans here and Mexicans here cheering on Canelo, and lots of Kamel Charlo fans who believe he's going to upset the apple cart and beat Canelo Alvarez. So it's still a big fight. It's still going to do a $20 million gate and 500,000 pay-per-views plus, I would assume. But yeah, is it 1 million pay-per-views? Is it a 40 million? No, but I mean, you kind of split in hairs between big events. This is a big event. It's just not as big as some of the massive events that have happened this year, I think. Do we have any more questions? No more questions, guys and girls. Come on, get a few more in before we get off, because Ben is going to start looking at me for that side eye in a minute, trying to get me to to move along and get over to the media center. So let us know if you have any more questions, anything else that you'd like to throw my way before we leave you temporarily. I might add on One-on-One Boxing. If you're here on One-on-One Boxing and you're not subscribed to the channel, just click that little subscribe button, man. Just give it a little click, because we will be weighing in every Friday from the big events on One-on-One Boxing moving forward. Lots of great content as well coming your way over the next few weeks. We had a Canelo Alvarez exclusive earlier on this week, where we talked about fighting Floyd Mayweather, Gennady Golovkin, growing up in Guadalajara, all of that good stuff. Got lots of great content to bring you on One-on-One Boxing over the next few months. We're going to go for David Mitchell first, because Alex Old's been pumping them questions out. Alex, you just have a little break, mate. Just like, anyway. Shout out Alex Olds. David Mitchell says, anything on the undercard we should look for? We should set the alarm for the main event only. Mate, this undercard is quality. Really strong undercard. You got Jesus Ramos and Erickson Lubin, which is unbeaten 154-pound prospect. Ramos is seemingly kind of earmarked as a big star of the PBC roster. And Erickson Lubin is a good fighter, man. He's a great TV fighter. Lets his hands go, very offensive. I can see that being a really good fight. Then you've got your Dennis Ugas versus Mario Barrios, which is a really good kind of crossroads fight at 147. If Ugas doesn't win that, where does he go? If Barrios wins that, then he's right there for a big fight. You know, Barrios is a Mexican boxing out of Texas. There is appeal for him. We've heard people talking about him possibly boxing Errol Spence in Texas. That's a good comeback fight for Errol Spence, or even somebody like a Virgil Ortiz. You know, that's a good potential fight in the future if, of course, Barrios is able to beat your Dennis Ugas this weekend. I think Elijah Garcia versus Jose Resendiz is an interesting fight. It's a good fight for Garcia's development to see where he's at against a rugged Mexican who's coming off the back of a very good win as well. So, yeah, lots to like. Kamel Moton on the undercard. We heard from earlier. We heard from Leonard Ellerbe, his promoter, say that, look, Floyd Mayweather has been very involved in Kamel Moton's career so far. He believes that he's ready to beat Lee Wood now. He's 17 years of age. He hasn't boxed a professional bout yet, but they're very high on him, the Mayweather team. So that is a very interesting prospect. I'm kind of hoping with Moton, and I'm telling you as well, David Mitchell, that you want to be there to say, I saw his professional debut. I'm really excited about the possibility of that happening tomorrow night. Well, it will happen tomorrow night, but I mean, 10 years down the line, me being able to say, I was there when Kamel Moton made his professional debut. So yeah, mate, long story short, that was just a hell of a load of waffle. I sounded like trying to sell you the event. It's a really good card. I think it's well matched throughout. The fights are stylistically well matched as well, so I can't really see many being boring. Famous last words, of course. But I think there's plenty to keep you occupied. If, like me, you want to power through on a Saturday night and stay awake to the wee hours, I think there's plenty of fights to keep you company tomorrow night. Benavidez Canelo chances if he wins tomorrow. I don't know. Benavidez, I think, is going to box Demetrius Andrade. Then we'll see after that. But I spoke to Mauricio Suleiman, of course, WBC president, and he said that they're looking to make that. Canelo hasn't boxed a mandatory challenger at 168 pounds since he fought Avni Yildirim, which is coming on for 2 years now. So I think that's something that, is it coming on for 2 years or coming on for 3 years? Yeah. I think it's coming on for 2 years. So yeah, I think we'll definitely see it at some point. True Mexico, if you were in London this weekend, which one would you go to, the Matchroom event or the Boxer one? Well, Andy's at the Boxer one, so I'd probably go to the Matchroom one. But I'm not in London. I'm here in Las Vegas. So yeah, I'd probably go to the other ones. Yeah, Lewis Moore. Big up Lewis Moore. Check out Lewis Moore for all of your boxing photography. Can Fury get under Usyk's skin at all and gain a mental edge? Could that be one of his key advantages taken from him? No, I don't think he gets under Usyk's skin or gets in his head. Is that a key advantage taken from him? I think the key advantages that he has are in the ring. But yeah, I think it's something. Lewis Moore. Also, shout out Boxing News. Shout out Boxing News and shout out One-on-One Boxing. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, Lewis Moore. Otherwise, I won't be helping you get into any shows in the future. But I'm joking. Top man. David Mitchell, sold and fair play. Great, passionate, impromptu response. Mate, David, honestly, it's a great card. Really good card. JHC 797. I'm going to go with the last one because Ben's about to punch me in the head. What is the best fight you've ever seen live? It's a good question, man. Taylor Prograis was very good. It's high level, but no knockdowns. You want like frills and spills and all of that stuff. Like Wilder Fury was good, but like Wilder Fury won, but it was mainly kind of, there were moments in that fight that really made it. was it a great fight from first bell to the last? I'm not quite sure. Chris Billingsworth versus Isaac Chamberlain was a good fight. This is all kind of recency bias. Like, it's difficult for me to remember anything that was before the pandemic, to be fair. So I was at Joshua Ruiz, yeah. I'd say Taylor Prograis, high level fight. But I'm sure I've probably seen better fights. I just can't really remember because it is Friday. Shout out Jimbo. Yes, Jimbo. Here he goes. Masquerading as JHC797. Big up JHC797 every time. John Cahill says, really enjoyed that interview with Leonard. Great stuff, Rob. And shout out Girl Collection. Big up Girl Collection. Girl Collection, if you want to sponsor one-on-one boxing, we'll do the next weighing in from Girl Collection. How's that? But yeah, shout out Leonard and shout out Girl Collection. Not that I've ever been there, in case my missus is watching us here on One-on-One Boxing. True Mexico says, just wanted to say, brilliant work, lads. I'm from the UK, but live in Mexico. When I was back in the UK, first thing I did when I landed was buy a boxing news from WH Smith. Thank you very much, True Mexico, and keep them peeled because, I don't know, man, I think it may be a Spanish boxing news, Boxeo Newsio for Mexico. So, yeah. Thank you very much for your very kind words. Keep an eye out. I don't know if there's a WH Smith in Mexico, probably not. But I'm working on it for you. So you can still get up to date with the world's greatest fight magazine since 1909 every week. Available now. Not in Mexico, though, unfortunately. So shout out to Mexico. Right, guys and girls, I think we're getting there. If you want to sneak one in now, I would do it quickly before Ben just completely cuts me off. There we go. Yoza says, can we try and get Jim Lampley on a stream? He's still so great to listen to. Yeah, potentially. I did 20 minutes with Jim yesterday, not on the live stream, up on the stage just over there. So I don't know if you've seen that. That's available on Boxing News. Very powerful stuff. Jim Lampley, very emotional, talking about Arturo Gatti and almost said Andre Ward, Mickey Ward, and talking about Lennox Lewis versus Tyson Fury, which for me is kind of one of the great heavyweight fantasy fights. So yeah, check that out. But big up Jim Lampley. If we can get him on, that would be great at some point in the future. Pidge, I think we're missing you, mate. We're leaving now. So yeah, sorry, Pidge. You're gonna have to probably join us later, my friend. Pidge, always a big supporter of our various channels, Boxing News, One-on-One Boxing. Wherever we're plying our trade, we can always rely on Pidge and his support on YouTube. Ben saying, please no more comments on the live. Listen, mate, the people want it. The people want it, and here at One-on-One Boxing, we deliver for the people. Right, guys and girls, I am being told off by Ben. He's doing all kinds of horrible sign language. Terrible. It's not sign language. It's filth is what it is. So we're going to love you and leave you. Yelza says it was great. I saw a good interview. Thanks very much. Pidge, big up One-on-One Boxing. Big up you, Pidge. But we are going to leave you here and we're going to head over to the weigh-in. So stay tuned on One-on-One Boxing for later on. We will be coming back to you either live after the weigh-in or if not, we will be live tomorrow on Fight Day. It's Canelo Alvarez. It's Jamel Charlo. It's Undisputed versus Undisputed. And you can catch up with the latest Canelo Charlo content here on One-on-One Boxing. Don't forget to hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons. Ben, cut it.